Hey everybody, a short review of the Culling here for all of you. Hopefully you enjoy this review and hopefully it will influence your decision on whether to buy or not to buy the game based on my points. And of course, feel free to let me know if you enjoy this game and what your thoughts are on the game in the description. Basically, for those who don't know what this game is, it's a battle royale game where your goal is to survive to be the last man in either free-for-all solo mode, where you go in by yourself, obviously, or teams mode, where you can go in with a partner. Or if you want to do team mode, you can do it by yourself, and you'll be randomly assigned a teammate, but I wouldn't recommend that, because then you're likely to be playing with teams of two that are together and communicating and all that, which give you a distinct advantage. You can also sort of ignore the background footage here, because that's just me playing the advanced tutorial, which I would very much recommend you do before you jump into the game, to play both the basic and advanced tutorials. Because one of my complaints that I'll discuss a little bit later is I feel like the game isn't that intuitive to start out with. So definitely would recommend you play the tutorials before you start. If you're interested in watching the tutorials, feel free, but that the video is not so much the point about the tutorials. The point is my review of this game. Of course, you can also make it look prettier. I don't have the greatest computer system, so it's not going to be like the top quality graphics or anything. So, also just a fair warning to everybody watching this video. I personally only played for about 3 hours, and those 3 hours were all in team mode. So I haven't tried free-for-all, and I also have only played for about 3 hours, and I'm not very big on battle royale games. Like, I don't have much experience playing them, is what I mean. Like, they're fun, but I don't have much experience playing them. So in not having much experience playing them, I might be at a little bit of a distinct disadvantage with this game. But with that said, and all that introduction out of the way, here's my initial thoughts on the game. First of all, I feel like the game, as it stands now, has a very high skill gap. So it makes it very difficult for someone to initially get started in the game, which that's fine in some ways, but if you're just getting started with the game and you're struggling, then you'll want to quit right away, of course. Like, as you'll see here, with if you do want to watch the background, I'm trying to figure out how to throw spears, and it's very complicated for me to figure out how that, like, a lot of the stuff is not very intuitive, and you'll be playing against people that know how to do it, and so they'll basically slaughter you. You can do well without knowing this stuff because you can hide in a corner and survive, but then once you're the last one alive, you're basically guaranteed to lose because you'll be going against a higher skilled player. What I sort of wish is that the game would implement some sort of like a skilled bracketing system, or at least for your early games, you get to play with only people who are just starting out, like a mode maybe that you can play for like 10 games, or some sort of a system in place where if you're just starting out, you're only playing against similarly skilled players, or other, maybe not similarly skilled players because there would be no way to know that for sure, but to play against players who, just like you, are just starting out in the game, like don't have battles recorded on their profile, and once they get past a certain number of battles recorded on their profile, you can no longer play that mode. And so I think that would be a nice way to be able to figure some of the stuff out in the game and test it out in the game against real players, because obviously real players are that much harder than bots. And in trying to do it against real players, you can gain that higher skill. And with the higher intuitiveness of this game, a lot of this stuff needs to be learned by playing it. Obviously the tutorials will tell you some things, but you figure out way more by actually doing it yourself and just practice, which that's totally fine, totally acceptable for a game. But with the high skill ceiling, like, all the bad luck that can occur with you basically run into trouble. And obviously, on top of that, there's a lot to learn in the game, such as dealing with people that block, because if you get hit, you hit someone when they're blocking, you get stunned. So in learning to deal with that, and in learning how to deal with making the different traps and the crafting system, all that kind of stuff, learning how funk works, there's just so much to learn in this game that there's no way the tutorials can cover it all, which it makes it very hard for beginners. And if you could learn it in a different mode where you're only playing against other people that are starting out, I feel like that would make so much difference. Like, even just 10 games, you could learn so much and actually feel like you could possibly compete with other players who are more advanced than you. And the crafting system, for me, I found the crafting system not very intuitive. Like, once you learn how to do it, it's not really a problem, because you start to learn, okay, what you're going to make first right away, and then you can start looking at the more advanced things. But part of my problem is, in the game, you can press, I believe it's escape, and it'll pop up the menu with all the crafting items. If you watch till the end, you'll get to see me do that as well. But some of the items in that are so small that you can't tell what they are. Like, for example, I couldn't tell that you needed a spear and a stick to make a bow, because the pictures for sticks and spears are so similar and they're so small that I can't tell which is which. So I assumed that a bow is just a stick and a stick, which of course a stick and a stick makes a bandage. And so, like, you can't tell in the game what's what. And obviously I found online that there's basically like a bigger version of the crafting system that you can print out, which I will probably end up doing. But I just wish that was more clear in the actual game. Like, because it's so nice to have that in the actual game, but I can't see it with my own eyes. Like, maybe some people are a lot better at noticing that kind of stuff than I am, but for me, I have eye problems, and like, I wear glasses and all that kind of stuff. And so for me in the game, the way I cannot see that stuff, and so it gives me a slight disadvantage in starting out, and that might influence my rating a little bit. But I just feel like, for me, the crafting system isn't that intuitive, and so I'm going to downvote the game a little bit for that. But with that stuff said, I still believe that the game, there's a lot of potential. It's a really fun game, and I'm still going to give it pretty high marks for what I would say. But it's a very fun game, but I will warn you guys, don't get discouraged on the, like, if you have a difficult time trying to start and figuring things out. Like, I didn't even know that, like, F is the, like, pickup button, and, like, if you're opening things, I didn't know that you could just click F. I thought you had to hold it. So the whole time I was, like, holding F on funk barrels and stuff, because there's no, like, thing that makes it very clear that you could just click on it. And even that, like, it's not that big a deal, of course, but with that, it's just something small that I wish, like, the game would make some of the stuff a little bit more clear and a little bit more intuitive in nature. Obviously, the game's in early alpha still, so there's a lot of time for changes, and take that into account if you watch this review, that the game is indeed in early alpha, and a lot of the stuff is subject to change, and a lot of these things could be improved upon. As well as noting again that I'm not really, like, a big Battle Royale player, so some of this stuff, in terms of controls and stuff, really could be very similar to other Battle Royale games, and I kind of expect that some of them probably are. And so if you're coming from a different Battle Royale game, like Ark Survival of the Fittest, or like H1Z1, you might have no problem jumping right in and going right at it, because it's just that type of game. But for me, that hasn't played those other games, it's just a very, very difficult start for a beginner. Like, I did well because I would, like, hide, but then once you get to the finals, you know you're dead and you just want to kill yourself and just let yourself die, essentially, which doesn't really make for a fun game, because if you're not being able to compete, like, there was an opportunity that occurred in the game where I spawned in, right next to me is a guy. He was able to outrace me, out-juke me, And like, on top of that as well, he was able to literally, he had fists. I had a weapon, and he was beating me with his fists because he knew how to deal with the block system that I did not. And I still have some trouble with that. And because he knew how to do that, like, he was better than I was with his fists than I was with my weapon. That's just the difference in skill gap. That just because you have a weapon doesn't mean you're gonna win. Like, obviously, right here it's a bot, and so it's not the most fair. But I'm able to beat this guy with the spear with my own fists. As we're getting toward the end of this, it is going to jump into some bot gameplay. It's not very long, nothing really is seen because I cut it off. Because, again, the background is not so much the purpose of this video. And so, I'll just let you know that if it seems like the video has a weird, abrupt ending, then that makes sense. Because it probably does. Basically, my final words on this game are that it's a very fun game. Definitely do the tutorials and spend some time in the bot matches, which is something I did not do. I did not do the tutorials, and I did not spend time in bot matches. Definitely would recommend you do that. Don't buy it and jump right into multiplayer because it is very complicated to get into. You will be just disintegrated. And that's not really fun for anybody. Basically, if you like or you've played other Battle Royale games, I would highly recommend this game. And especially if you have a teammate, like a friend, to be a teammate for the team mode. Because that way, then you're in the team mode. The downside of the team mode is like the other modes, sometimes you spawn really far away, and sometimes you're unlucky with your spawns, and so you'll never get to meet, or you just get instantly disintegrated by a team that got a luckier spawn than you. But that's sort of an aspect of these games, and it's a risk you take. But I still thought that playing the team mode was pretty fun. I'd probably give the game a score out of 75 out of 100. I wrote down that I would give it a 70. I might give it just a 75 at this point. Now that I've figured out that you could get this larger crafting screen printed out online. I don't know why they didn't make it clearer in-game what things were. But maybe down the road they will. I'm definitely going to keep playing the game. I'm not going to give up on it. And I might do another video or two later. Like, just explaining more things and improvements. But until then, at this point, I gotta give the game about a 75 out of 100. Since it does have that super high learning curve and the difficulties for myself personally. But if you don't think those difficulties affect you, go ahead and get it, because I still would highly recommend the game. It's very positive. And if you still want to try the game, but you're worried, then it might be best to wait till a sale. Hopefully you all found this review helpful to you, and thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to comment your own thoughts. Thank you very much, and that's the end of the video.